What happens when the very system that's supposed to heal a child actually ends up causing more harm? Today, we're diving into a really distressing case where a family had to take legal action just to get their 8-year-old son the urgent care he desperately needed. And what they uncovered were alleged failures that went far, far beyond the hospital's walls.
So, what's at the heart of all this? The core claim is that an 8-year-old boy who was in serious pain from a hernia was denied urgent surgery. Not just once, but twice.
Now get this, the child's parents are both human rights advocates. They felt like they had absolutely no other choice but to take legal action. And their fight, well, it started to peel back the layers on alleged failures that stretched way beyond just a single trip to the hospital.
Okay, so the family's first big move was to send a very formal legal document to the NHS Trust. It's called an accelerated letter before claim, and in it, they laid out a whole series of really serious allegations, accusing the trust of some pretty clear legal and ethical breaches.
And these claims were super specific. They argued that the hospital broke the Equality Act because they didn't make any reasonable adjustments for their son's autism. They also alleged that the hospital failed to protect his welfare, which is a breach of the Children Act, and by supposedly ignoring the risks from his vomiting, they claimed a violation of the Health and Social Care Act.
One of the absolute cornerstones of medical ethics is something called informed consent. It's basic stuff, but one of the most jarring allegations here was a complete and total lack of it. The family claims that a staff member performed a really painful procedure on their son, manually pushing the hernia back in with zero warning or explanation. Imagine that.
And if that wasn't bad enough, the mother was then allegedly told that if it happened again, she could just push the hernia back in herself, at home. In their legal letter, the parents called this advice both dangerous and inappropriate. You can see why. So from there, the whole situation just got worse. The parents claimed that speaking up didn't actually help. It allegedly made things worse for them. They had already been denied that same-day surgery once. But after they went and lodged a formal complaint, they got another appointment only to be denied that urgent surgery yet again.
But here's where the story gets even bigger. The family's claims suggest this wasn't just some isolated incident, one bad day at the hospital. They argued that the problem was actually part of a pattern, a systemic failure that began long before they even walked through those hospital doors.
They basically connected all the dots looking backwards. Then, when they tried to get legal support from social services, they were allegedly just denied with no legal reason given.
Look, beyond all the legal arguments and the talk of systemic failures, there's a real human cost here. What was the impact of this entire nightmare on the little 8-year-old boy who was right at the center of it all?
This single sentence from the family's legal letter, it just speaks volumes, doesn't it? It describes this really deep psychological wound, a young child losing his trust in the very doctors and nurses who are supposed to make him better.
And this wasn't just some vague feeling of being anxious. The letter documented real, tangible changes in his life. The boy allegedly started struggling to sleep. He avoided running and playing like he used to. He was basically living in constant fear that the painful hernia would come back. So, how did this whole ordeal finally end? Well, that brings us to the final chapter, and honestly, some pretty big lingering questions about what justice and accountability really look like. The final sequence of events is pretty stark when you lay it out. The family sends their formal legal threat. The NHS Trust? Allegedly, nothing. No response. And then finally, the child gets his surgery, just 3 days before Christmas.
So, in the end, yeah, the necessary medical procedure did happen. But this case leaves us with a much, much bigger question. When you think about all the alleged delays, the pain, the psychological trauma, and the incredible fight just to get basic care, does a long overdue surgery really equal justice? That's the unresolved question right at the heart of this story.